guys ready?
Yes.
I'm about to end your whole career. Alright?
Okay.
Alright. Good morning, my name is Brian Robles. Today, I will be giving my speech on Stephanie Barcelo's claim of fact, and it is that milk consumption is unhealthy. Her secondary claims are that milk consumption leads to high blood pressure. Her second is that milk consumption is problematic for digestion. And her third is that milk consumption leads to obesity. I'll begin by talking about her first claim, which is milk consumption leads to high blood pressure. And my claim is that milk consumption does not lead to high blood pressure. She starts off by stating that she backs it by saying that dairy consumption, in a systematic review of evidence published from 2004 to 2009, the 2010 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee concluded that there was moderate evidence of an inverse relationship between the intake of milk and milk products and blood pressure. After looking for this information, it was not there, so I concluded that it was fake news. In a Livestrong article by Sidney Hornby, they state that drinking milk actually helps lower blood pressure. They go on to back up their statement with studies conducted by Harvard researchers. So this is actually opposite of what she's claiming. In the February 2008 issue of Hypertension, Harvard researchers described the results of the Women's Health Survey, which is a study of 28,000 middle-aged and elderly women. And they discovered that women who drank milk and consumed large amounts of vitamin D and calcium through dietary sources lowered their risk of developing hypertension. She continued by stating that eggs aren't food and like carnivore stuff, which has nothing to do with milk whatsoever. So it's just like, why is it on there? My next claim is about, she states that milk consumption is problematic for digestion. My claim is that this is not sufficient evidence to support her initial claim. The evidence that she presented to back up her claim, again, was nowhere to be found. She went on to state that the animals on the planet do not continue to suckle after being weaned or suckle from any other species, and they know that mother's milk is baby food. We do not speak to animals, so we can't know if they actually know that mother's milk is only baby food. Most mammals actually stop lactating after a few months, so the fact that mammals stop drinking milk is not because they know that it's only for babies. And then if a hyena was to drink the milk from a wolf, they would probably fight it out, because she says that like animals don't drink other animals' milk because they know it, that you shouldn't drink it, but obviously it's just for survival purposes. Like if you give a dog or a cat cow milk, like they're not gonna be like, oh well, that's not my food. So fortunately for us though, humans, we completely overpower these animals, which allows us to drink all of their yummy milk. So we're tough. My last point is that her claim is that milk consumption leads to obesity. And my claim is the opposite, which is that milk consumption does not lead to obesity. The first thing that I would say is that any food can lead to obesity when overconsumed. Milk consumption, when consumed, just like any other food, can lead to obesity. However, just drinking milk alone does not just make you a whale, The claim is backed up by an article by Dr. Robert O. Young. This is the only one that I found, which states that it's difficult to lose weight when consuming milk. He continues by stating that you cannot lose acidic weight if you are drinking or eating dairy products, including milk, cheese, cottage cheese, yogurt, and ice cream. Even if his claims are 100% true, the claim that milk consumption leads to obesity, his claim is that milk consumption will prevent you from losing weight. It is not that milk consumption leads to obesity. So even if that claim is true, it's not a good claim to back up the initial argument. And with that, I will conduct a mic drop and I will exit.
logic states.
And then do you need the outline?
Only if you want a grade for it.
Oh, okay. I do want to read.
Thank you. Less work for me if you don't turn it in. Okay, Brian, some of the things that you did I thought really well. First, you identify the advocate's claim and the secondary claims very clearly, and then you start directly by following that structure, talking about the first point, and then you start off your first response by simply saying it does not. There's a clear declarative claim about that subject. But then you proceed to kind of go after the argument that the advocate presented. Instead of presenting your counterclaim, you start attacking their evidence, and maybe there's something problematic about it. You back off of that for a second, and then you actually do present evidence that suggests that it has no relationship to high blood pressure. You want to present your evidence when you make the claim. You've got other claims that you're making too about the problems with the evidence that the advocate cited.
Right. Those
should be separate claims. So you should say, the evidence that she cited is unreliable, it's not discoverable, it's inaccurately quoted, it comes from somebody who is not qualified to offer this opinion. Whatever the argument is that you're going to make about her evidence. Or on the reasoning point, it's insufficient to reach the conclusion that she suggested. And then second, milk doesn't have this effect. And here is the evidence that proves my point, which contradicts her point completely. So that's the way I think it would be a little bit clearer. You kind of mix them together, and that's a little bit awkward. The criticism that you have of her evidence seems to be that you couldn't find the evidence that she cited, and therefore it's fake news. I appreciate the humor in the fake news reference, but this is the equivalent of saying you're a liar. And you got to be careful about that. And although I know the world's full of people who scream that at each other, they're politicians and everybody believes that they're all lying all the time anyway. You're not a politician. You want to be taken credibly. You want to be a professional. If you accused your boss of lying, if you accused one of your coworkers of lying, and you did it in front of a set of colleagues, that's going to create a huge amount of tension and problems for you. So the way you want to present an argument like that is, well, she cited this particular source. I looked for it. I could not find the quote that she cited. I'm not sure that it's an accurate representation of what's there. I couldn't find it, so it's hard to judge there. Now, let me present to you my criticism or my contradictory claim that proves that particular point. So, like I said, I appreciate, there's a little bit of humor in the presentation, that sort of thing, but you want to be careful. Because you accuse somebody of lying, that's a serious charge outside of the realm of politics, where apparently everybody accuses everybody of lying. Holy criminy. Because technically, if she fabricated the evidence, I'm obligated to report her and potentially have her expelled from school. Because a fabrication is cheating. And it violates our honesty code. And so that's, you don't really mean that, right? That's not the position you're taking. I think not.
Kick her out.
Yeah, I think that's a little problematic. So you want to be careful about that. I do think you have a reasonable argument when you say, the eggs and the carnivore thing, that's not relevant to the milk. I don't even know why it's included here. That's a reasonable press to make. And I thought you had good evidence that contradicted came up with a contradictory conclusion on that point. On the digestive issue, I think there's some good analysis that's potentially here, but you want to make the claims a little clearer. You can't very well deny that some people have digestive problems with milk. I'm sorry that those people have problems with milk, but the vast majority of some populations have no problem processing milk. They enjoy it substantially. They consume it in large quantities. There are products that we desire and treasure because of that. And to deny that to people who have no problems simply because somebody else has a problem seems to be a foolish way of looking at the world. I'm sorry that those people can't enjoy the cheese or the ice cream that we appreciate so much. Don't put any cream in your coffee. get yourself some soy and, cry into it, and that'll make it taste a little better for you. See, you can be humorous about those kinds of things and still make the same argument. The other thing that you want to point out is that this whole analogy about the animals, and they know when to stop doing this kind of stuff. I think you are on the right right trail when you say at the end, well, we got the power over the animals, so we get to enjoy their products. That's kind of what you need to say. You say, we're at the top of the food chain. We don't necessarily behave the same way all the animals below us do. Cows eat grass, and you're not saying we should eat grass. That's why is that a fair analogy? Cows know enough to stop drinking milk when they grow up. Yeah, but they don't know enough to eat something other than grass. We do. We've got other ways that we can supplement our nutrition. Just argue. That's not a very legitimate analogy that's being made there. Okay. Which is basically what your criticism is, but it's a little indirect in getting to the point. And on the obesity issue, was that the quote that the advocate used that you cited there?
It was the quote that she used as a... Yeah, because basically, you just repeat the point that you have. Now, I think there's a criticism to be made here that says that, the evidence, I'm trying to remember exactly what it said. That it's difficult to lose weight if you are drinking milk. I think you've got a legitimate point here. The cause-effect claim says that doesn't say that it causes you to become obese. It says it is difficult for you to lose weight if you are taking milk. Those are different things. And if you were on a diet for the purpose of losing weight, then maybe restraining from milk is an appropriate thing to do. But the vast, I don't know how much milk is consumed. You could break it down by the population, for instance, and probably discover that the vast majority of milk that's consumed is by children. And as a result, they need to gain weight. They need body mass. They need bone mass. They need to do all those kinds of things. And so maybe if adults need to lose some weight, milk's not such a good thing to have in their diet. But for kids who are growing, they need to have milk in their diet. Let's think about the argument in a little bit more depth, as it is. Because just repeating her evidence, even though you've got a legitimate point to make about it, you don't make that point. You just kind of say, well... Yeah, it actually hurts your point a little bit more. All right. Thank you.